Hey, greetings. Good morning. It's Fred in Alaska. It's about 6 a.m. here. Approximately 20-ish degrees. Heat wave. Anyway, what I wanted to share with you this morning comes to us from Jonathan. This happened a week ago. Dave, a marker on the map, it would be between Wasilla and Willow. Jonathan still lives in this place and doesn't want anyone coming around and what have you, which I understand. So Jonathan's situation, he's been living on this property over 30 years. Had plenty of run-ins with moose, bear, couple wolverines passing through once or twice over the time period. Nothing really out of the normal. So what he got accustomed to was walking down his personal trail to his place in the dark. He knew the area, he knew the trail, he knew what his concern should be, at least up until that point. Now, from what he was explaining to me, he was on his third trip. He was bringing in supplies. He had done a Costco run to Anchorage, and he was on his third trip back on into his little cabin, his little humble home. And it's roughly not quite a quarter mile. So on the third trip to get the last load, he was almost to his vehicle, and he started hearing a weird noise off in the brush and figured, oh, it's fall. It's one of those bears passing through. No big deal. He always carried his 10mm Glock, hard case rounds. He's well versed. He knows, he knows his business as far as that goes. He was prepared at all times, like a lot of Alaskans are out in the bush. And just be aware, up north of Anchorage, anywhere off the road, you're in remote Alaska. It doesn't matter. The wilderness does not care. For example, earlier this spring, there was a soldier killed right outside of Elmendorf, right by Eagle River, by a bear, like real close to the largest city in Alaska. Even in Anchorage, Eagle River, people get killed by bears. So nature doesn't care about your house or your trail or any of that shit. So just, so anyway, Jonathan was of this mindset, and that's why he had his Glock. So he wasn't scared. He had dealt with this kind of thing before, movement in the dark. So he gets to his car, and he's bringing one of those big bundles of toilet paper. I'm sure you guys seen them from Costco. So it was kind of awkward to carry, so he threw it up on his shoulder. And when he had it up on his shoulder, it was blocking the left side of the trail partially, directly off the left. He could still navigate the trail and see. Barely. He just knew the trail. His porch light off in the distance. He knew how to, negotiate the trail. As he's going along, the noises started paralleling him to where a few times he stopped. So a few times he stopped and would check it out. No flashlight on him. Didn't pull his gun or anything, would stop and listen. Second time he stopped to listen, he said he was overcome with dread, overcome with the sense that all is not good. And he's never felt that. 30 plus years at this place, never felt that. Had neighbors not all that far away. He could see their porch lights off through the trees, barely, that type of thing. He felt unnaturally fearful, and that to him, it really bothered him, because he's dealt with, like a lot of us guys that go out in the woods, bears, moose, all of it. He kind of didn't know what to think of it and decided to keep his cool. He's early 60s. He starts walking again, says, I'll know if I gotta pull, if I gotta do what I gotta do. Basically, a hardened dog that wasn't gonna just get worked up. Thought it was strange that he felt that way and just continued on, soldiering it out, He gets about 50 more feet down the path, and that's when things start breaking. And he said when the branches and stuff started breaking in the brush, he immediately dropped the toilet paper, had out his firearm, no flashlight. and he's regretting the no flashlight at this point. So he leaves the toilet paper, got his Glock, and he continues down the path, taking a few steps, stopping, taking a few steps, stopping, and the whole time this thing is paralleling him. He said he guesstimated about 30-40 feet away at the most. Again, it was pitch black, and he couldn't determine exact location. He just knew it was right off of his immediate left. It like shoulder, just straight off his shoulder. So he makes it to his cabin, his little house, and he gets his flashlight to go and retrieve his toilet paper, but he wants to see what was making this noise. He said he didn't hear any growling or anything, just the breaking, and he didn't even hear outside of a few steps here and there. Overall, it was relatively quiet outside of the breaks. He could just feel and hear the movement. He said he couldn't tell whether it was 2 feet or 4 feet at the time, because when he got zonked out with the fear, he really, his paying attention, everything was heightened, but his mind was scrambling so much he wasn't deciphering what he was hearing clearly. So he comes back out with renewed confidence with the flashlight so he could see. Still with his Glock, had no need in his mind to get anything larger as far as caliber. And he goes back to retrieve his toilet paper. Now, where he had dropped the toilet paper was a little over half the distance from his cabin back to the car. So he gets on it. He's hot stepping it, moving. He's flashing around. Not a sound, not a peep. He gets over to the toilet paper and he grabs it by the plastic, and he's just dragging it while trying to manage a flashlight and a pistol. So he's got his pistol out. He's tucked the flashlight on his neck like this, and he's trying to do this number and walk back down the trail. Improvised. He was improvising. He was MacGyvering that shit to get back to the cabin. Now, again, this is he knows his trail. He knows every root sticking out of the brush, all of it. 30 plus years, he knows his trail. So he's kind of going along, having to stop, adjust the flashlight because it kept trying to roll off his neck or whatever. So finally he holsters his pistol and decides, here, I'm just gonna, hold the flashlight. I'll pull the gun again if I need it. He gets approximately 60 feet from where he had picked up and started this little mission with the toilet paper and the flashlight, and he hears it off his left-hand side again, crunching. It got louder, and then he started hearing the breathing. He said it was real deep, almost like someone had a severe case of pneumonia, just a gurgly kind of deep breathing. So this spooked him because he knew the sounds bears make, the huffs, the gruffs, the little growls, all those things. He's been there, done that. What he was hearing was very deep. He said it wasn't quite the feeling in the chest, but it was pretty close. It was pretty dang deep, and that startled him to the point where he honestly forgot he had his gun on him. He was more flashlighting around. He didn't see anything. He takes a few more steps, and as he does so, he wasn't fully paying attention. He was kind of trying to beam, walk, and kind of absorb everything and kind of determine what the hell is going on, because he was freaked again really, really bad. And as he was dragging the toilet paper, it hit a snag and caught the bag and partially tore out the back. So a couple rolls of toilet paper on the ground. He saw that, so he reached down and turned the bag around and held it by the tear, stuffed the toilet paper back in, grabbed it by the tear side, and lifted it up higher off the ground. And as he regains his attention to the trail, he beams the flashlight back in front of him, but as he's beaming, he catches eye shine a little further off on his left. So he immediately goes right back to that point, and he sees a single eye coming out from behind the tree and then going back. And what he had noticed was it would peek out with the right eye, go behind this spruce tree, and then peek out the other side with his left eye. Now, the black spruce trees, there's gaps in between the branches. So this thing was behind the tree and peeking out from one side to the other. It wasn't immediately up on the tree, because it would have been impossible. This thing was, he said it was at least 10 foot tall, and it was probably a couple feet behind the tree, but from his perspective, it was immediately behind the tree, peeking out. I don't know if you could tell, but it's trying to snow, little flakes. So anyway, immediately he drops the bag, flashlight on, and he's watching this thing swaying kind of back and forth behind this tree. Draws his pistol and says, "Hey, come out, show me your hands, you know, I'm armed." He wasn't at the moment, in the moment, he wasn't equating the size of this thing. He said it had a humanoid type shape. It didn't dawn on him how big it was until he realized how high he was pointing his flashlight a few moments later when he's trying to yell at this thing to show itself. He's got his gun drawn and he shoots one into the ground and says, I'm not playing with you. Boom. Well, at that point, loud scream and thrashing, just gone. He said it took off faster than anything he's ever seen move, and he realizes that in the dark with the flashlight, it actually made it look faster, but he said that would have been irrelevant because it was freaking fast as shit. I mean, real fast. So immediately he's startled. Fuck the toilet paper, he's gone. He gets back to the cabin and he starts replaying everything that happened. And he's like, this thing was massive. It was big. And he puts away his 10mm and he gets out. It's basically AR-10 platform 308. He decides that he's gonna get his toilet paper and see if he can get any kind of photographic proof of this thing. Even though it had run off, he wanted to see anyway. Grabs himself on those old, I guess they would be like a Fujifilm, you know, disposable cameras. He had a couple of those laying around. Where you get those developed nowadays, I have no clue. I think Walmart does them. Anyway, he had been sitting on this little couple pictures left on this roll for quite a while, quite some time. So he takes his rifle, flashlight, and his camera, and he goes back down, and he's gonna get the toilet paper and try to get a picture of at least the eye shine, because the eye shine intrigued him because of how tall it was. He said the eye shine was a bright white, wasn't red or green or anything. It was just a super bright white. Looked very large. And so as he's getting down the trail to where he ditched the toilet paper, he's overcome by the eerie feeling again, so he stops and he starts shining around him. As he's doing so, nothing. Dead quiet, not a peep. Neighbors' dogs way off in the distance are cutting up, just hooting, hollering, you know, barking, all of it. And he's like, well, crap. So he decides, you know what, I'll let the toilet paper ride. I'm feeling uneasy. It's pitch black. This thing was moving earlier without sound, and I better just go home, get this in the daylight. Cut his losses if he loses a roll or two to the moisture. He didn't care. So he turns around, starts heading back, taking his time because, again, he got the creeped out feeling again. So as he's heading back to his cabin, every step he takes, it's a little crunchy, but not horribly. And he's noticing sound off his left shoulder again, imitating step for step. He stepped, there was a sound of a step. And so he again turns his attention that way, has rifle kind of slung low, had the band over his shoulder or whatever, the strap for the rifle, and he's beaming, and he pops one in the ground again, just in front of him, about 15 feet. Pow! Yells again, stay back, get back. Gets an overwhelming sense that he's being watched. He's hearing noises in the direction he just popped into the ground. Starts hearing scuffling and shuffling off in the distance, just out of sight. He's like, quit playing games with me. If you're a kid playing a game, you're gonna get hurt. I'm not playing games out here. You will get shot. Stop your game. He was just spitballing, you know. If it was someone playing a prank, he wanted them to know that it's about to get serious. As he's doing so, as he's saying these things, he hears a grunt from behind him. And he said it sounded really, really close, to the point where he immediately didn't lock up, but couldn't bring himself to turn around and beam. He felt that any movement he made at that moment, something bad was going to happen. And he fought against that, swung around real fast, and caught eye shine about 50 feet away behind some birch trees. Just a small group of birch trees. That he said the birch trees are probably 30, 40 foot tall in a cluster growing off an old stump. I have some of those around here. Anyway, so he sees the eye shine, and it's going behind this thing, and it looks like it's kind of zigzagging but moving away from him, but the eyes were always on him. So he's beaming, and at this point, this has his attention. He's not thinking about the noise behind him. And as he's watching this thing, he hears a twig snap. He spins around, back around, looking in the other direction, nothing. Turns back to look over because he hears some plastic rustling. Now remember, he's just feet from where he decided, you know, he's going to ditch the toilet paper. He can damn near see all of it just right down his trail. He turns to see this thing squatted down, pushing with his finger at the toilet paper. Immediately he's like, what the fuck? Because he knows how big that toilet paper package is, and this thing was hulking over it. He said it was so big he didn't even want to shoot it with a 308. He immediately felt like he didn't have enough gun, and he just backed away. He said he don't know where he got the courage to even move because he was so freaked out, but he backed away, turned around, and just resolved himself to just go to your cabin, go direct to your cabin, don't look around anymore. Because at this moment, he's seen 2 sets of eye shine, and plus the one showed itself fully. He said, squatted down, this thing had to have been damn near 6 foot tall. He said he didn't see the face. He saw the shoulder, the side of the head. The little tiny ear looked like a small little gorilla type nub on the side. And he said it happened so quickly he didn't get a very good view of it, but it looked shaggy, kind of like greasy matted hair, not fur but hair, and he could tell it was massively built, muscular wise. So anyway, he's attention to the ground in front of him, and he's beelining it straight back to his cabin. Just as he's coming into the clearing where his cabin is, his house, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't a traditional log cabin, it was just a cabin in the woods. Everyone calls their house a cabin when it's out in the woods. Anyway, he gets up onto his little porch, and he's catching his breath, and he lights a cigarette, and he's shaking. He doesn't smoke inside his house, and he's sitting in his little smoking area, which he had been for 30 plus years, and he's trying to assess everything that just happened. You know, what's with this, what's really going on here. Now, he said when he was smoking his cigarette, he kept getting the feeling that he was in danger, and he couldn't wrap his mind around the fact that on my porch, this is my home, and I'm scared to death. So he gets about halfway done with his cigarette, and he's mad. He's like, screw this, what am I scared of? This is my property, right? Which I understand. I don't begrudge the guy. So he puts his cigarette out, goes inside, and he puts on a headlamp, and he grabs another rifle. He had an AR-15. He grabbed that. He knew it was smaller caliber. He was going for volume. And he goes back down the trail with his AR-10 and his AR-15, one in each hand, headlamp on, just kind of doing this number back and forth, looking for any sign of these things to light them up. He was going to make it clear, this is my spot, ain't nothing happening here, y'all need to move on, whatever. He was well aware of, you know, Sasquatch, hairy man, never experienced one, didn't have doubts about it because it's Alaska. He's seen too many strange things to discount it. He just didn't realize it was at home, you know, literally right out his door. So he's going down the trail. He's reinvigorated with anger. He's going down, and he's looking for any sign of movement. And he told me in his mind's eye, any movement, it's getting both barrels. You know, he's gonna mag dump whatever he comes across. Done deal. He gets on down, nothing, and he reaches the toilet paper. Well, when he gets to the toilet paper, he notices the plastic looks deformed from its kind of rectangular cube bale of hay shape, you know. And he notices there's a bunch of toilet paper missing out of it. So he starts headlamping around, you know, looking around, and he notices off in the direction, which would have been, if he's going to his cabin, it would have been off to his left-hand side. To his right now, he saw toilet paper here and there going off into the trees. So he thought nothing of it. Figured, okay, I'm standing here. He slung the AR-15 over his shoulder, still had the AR-10 in his hand, and grabbed what was left in the toilet paper, turned around, and headed back to the cabin. This was a week ago. He's invited me out there. I haven't had a chance to confirm with him or what have you. If it does work out that way, I'm hoping he will at least record in his own voice. He's kind of leery on that because he said everyone knows his voice because he's been there so long. So I respect that too. So we'll see what becomes of that. If he allows me to film on the property, that'd be great. If not, I get it. And so he ended up getting home. And so when he gets home and he's got the toilet paper in the house or whatever, he said that a flood of emotions overcame him to the point to where he sat down on his couch and sobbed. He said probably 40-45 minutes just from the release of all the emotion that was running through his mind during this whole ordeal. He said it beginning to end, it probably lasted 45 minutes from the initial dropping the toilet paper, pulling the gun, all that, going to get the flashlight, all that. He said it was roughly about 45 minutes. But he prefaced by saying he was terrified at the moment and had never been that terrified in his life. And so that's what Jonathan shared with us. Again, hopefully I'll make it out there to record a little something here. I'm gonna take you guys down the trail a little ways here. Come with me. It's kind of dark out here. It is cold out this morning. I don't know if the camera's picking up all the frost or not. And yes, I am not out here naked, so to speak. I've learned my lesson of going unarmed. Anyway, it's Fred in Alaska. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch y'all on the next one.